Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April meeting of the Valley of the Sun Deconstruction and Reuse Work Group. Today, we're going to be learning about Lighthouse, the Vancouver, British Columbia-based nonprofit whose mission is to create regenerative built environments that nurture ecological and human health. Gil Yaron and Ava Campbell will speak with us about the organization and one of its key initiatives. But before we turn things over to Gil and Ava, and as everyone settles in, we'll set just a little bit of context. Who or what is the Valley of the Sun Decon Reuse Work Group, for those of you who haven't joined us before? We're based in the Phoenix, Arizona metropolitan area. We spotlight deconstruction, reuse, and sustainability progress plans and goals, really as models for broader consideration and implementation. We welcome participants and members regardless of geographic location, and we invite you to join us on LinkedIn, and we'll put a link in the chat in a little bit so that you can see where to join us on LinkedIn. We also are happy to have your feedback and suggestions, so we'll put our email for that in the chat in a few minutes as well. The meetings are sponsored by Stardust, which is a nonprofit in the Phoenix area for now over 28 years, diverting quality used building materials from the landfill and making them available for reuse in 2 retail locations. And we'll put the LinkedIn group and all of that into the chat in just a few minutes. But, whoops, I over-advanced. We are a community. It's good to know and connect with each other. So as everybody settles in, we invite you to share your name, your organization, anything else that you might like to share about location or anything else, because you might discover someone that you want to have a conversation or a connection with later. And we will share the Zoom chat afterwards along with the recording link with everybody who's registered, so you can find each other if there's information that you'd like to follow up on. As you do that, we're going to conduct 2 polls to learn where you are and what type of organization or sector you represent. Okay, Jen. The first is our geography poll, and I apologize for our beyond the US participants that typically we are primarily US participants, so we have an outside the US category, but we haven't broken it down more finely than that.
So I've gone ahead and launched the poll, and I'm seeing responses come through. So thank you for that. And I'll keep it open for just another 10 or 15 seconds. Okay. And wonderful. Thank you for that. So I'll go ahead and share those results. So as you can see, we have wide dispersion of participants today, with about 33% outside of the United States, and glad to have most regions represented here. So thank you for that.
And if I'm seeing this accurately, today approximately 1/3 of our participants are from outside the United States, so we're thrilled. And I know we have lots of folks from Canada this evening, but I believe we have folks even farther away than that. So thank you for joining us. Okay, well, this was a poll where you needed to select one answer. The next, we give you even more options because we'd like to know what sort of organization or sector you represent. And the list shows on the screen of your options. Select as many as are relevant for you.
And all of the options may not show up, so if you need to, feel free to scroll down and select the options that are most relevant to you. And again, I'll just leave the poll open for just another 10 seconds or so. Okay. I'll go ahead and end the poll, and again, as you can hopefully see the results, that we have a fair number, about 40% affiliate with local governments, but also consultants, academic, deconstruction, nonprofit, and reuse retailer folks as well. So we're glad to again have all of you with us today, and look forward to participating in this conversation today.
Okay, so now we start to move toward our main event. Um, Basic information. The recording link and, as we mentioned, the Zoom chat will be provided to registrants afterwards. I have no idea where that red line came from. We do have question and answer and discussion time planned after Gil's and Ava's prepared materials. If you've got thoughts, ideas, questions that you don't want us to lose track of, please go ahead and put those in the chat in the meantime, because we'll start with those when they wrap up. So we don't want to have your comments and questions that come up along the way to be lost. As much as possible, we'd really like to leave you all with local control of your microphones and your cameras, so please be aware of your background noise and standard Zoom protocols and all of that. There will be a brief survey at the end of the meeting, and we hope that will pop up when you leave. We hope you will give us some feedback to help us continue to improve our meetings. And also, if you are interested in presenting to this group, we give you a place to tell us about that so that we can follow up with you. Today, we are focused on circularity in action and the building material exchange program with Gil and Ava, who will tell you a little bit more about themselves and their organization. I'm Kathy Trontell, and Ava, take it away with your
Thank you
screen share.
very
And I
much.
believe, Gil, you're speaking first.
Yes, thanks, Kathy. Hello, everyone. Very pleased to be here today to share with you some of the work that we've been doing up in British Columbia, Canada. First of all, I just want to thank Kathy and Jennifer and the other folks at Valley of the Sun for putting this on and being so helpful in terms of setting us up for this webinar today. My name is Gil Yaron. I'm the Managing Director of Circular Innovation with Lighthouse, and Ava Campbell, our Circular Impact Lead, is joining me today. She'll be presenting on one of our programs a little later on in the presentation. So our presentation today is focusing on what we call circularity in action. Lighthouse is a nonprofit organization. As I said, we're based in Vancouver, Canada. Our mission is to advance regenerative and circular practices in the built environment that nurture ecological and human health. And we spend a lot of time working on very on-the-ground projects, a lot of pilot initiatives to really test circular concepts and principles in the construction sector. And that's what we're going to share with you today is 3 of the programs that we've been focused on for the past while. So, but before we do that, I thought it would be helpful to provide a bit of context about the environment that we're working in British Columbia and to some degree the rest of Canada. Because these programs don't operate in a vacuum, they are very contextual given the current political, policy, and social environments and market environments in which we operate. So some things that you should know, it's a pretty dense slide, but I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, is there's a division of responsibilities between federal, provincial, and local governments, just like there is in the States. But waste is under this jurisdiction of the province. Regional governments manage waste management, but the province sets high-level policy around waste management. We do have deconstruction policy in a number of jurisdictions, primarily in British Columbia. They vary, and they are different than the policies that you would be familiar with in some urban municipalities in the States. We are building a critical mass of industry support across the country for circularity. There's a lot of interest growing in this space. In fact, I'm at a circular economy summit that's happening in Montreal, Quebec, as we speak. And so there's over 1,000 people attending this conference. And we have strong support from federal and provincial governments. A number of our projects are funded by the various levels of government, including regional and local governments, I should add as well. But we are limited in terms of the infrastructure to support circularity in the built environment, to support salvage, storage, and reprocessing. We do have deconstruction companies. We have some capacity, but very limited to store and process and transact these materials. So that's a major area of focus for us. And some regions have implemented material bans to support reuse, particularly clean wood and gypsum, but it's fragmented depending where you are. So it's a very, very regional, if not municipal specific. And finally, sorry, just jumped a little ahead there. And most jurisdictions also have what we call variable tipping fees for mixed and clean loads as another financial incentive for haulers, contractors and haulers to sort out clean materials for, if not reuse, then at least recycling. Okay, so with that, the other thing, just want to provide you a little bit more information about Lighthouse and the scope of the work that we do. This is, don't get too overwhelmed by this. I think I went crazy one weekend and just, yeah, had a lot of fun with this. But basically, our circular innovation work tracks the full life cycle of materials. So we're looking at working on design for deconstruction, designing our buildings in ways that we know that we can take them apart at end of life, or at least adapt them for reuse so we can extend their life. And then construction, so looking at incorporation of salvage materials into new construction, working with existing buildings, so again, designing for flexibility and adaptability. And then a large focus on end of life of buildings, removal, salvage of materials, and finding end markets for those materials so that they can be recirculated into the economy. So before we get into chatting about the programs, we thought we would just ask you guys a question about which of the following subject areas are related to your work. So just to get an idea of where everyone's focus is right now, and you can select more than one.
Okay, and I do see some results coming in, so I'll keep that poll open for just a few moments longer to give everyone a chance to answer. See, it looks like I'll give you just another few seconds.
Or maybe it's the area of interest that you have. If you're not actually, I know there's a lot of government representatives on this session today, so maybe it's just your area of focus right now in terms of policy and interest.
Gil, what's clear is that each of your work areas is of interest to a significant number of our participants today.
Right.
It looks like we're pretty much split across the board here.
Right. That's great. That's good. And our projects to a greater or lesser extent touch on each of these areas. So, so we'll just jump into it here. So we are currently running 3 significant programs out of Lighthouse. These programs all aim to drive circularity in the construction sector, either by reducing waste or fostering innovation, or supporting businesses in developing and scaling the products and technologies that they're developing. The first one is the Construction Plastics Initiative, which I'm going to talk about first, and then the Circular Construction Accelerator. And then I'm going to hand things over to Ava, who's going to introduce you to our Building Material Exchange, or what we affectionately call BMEX. So the Construction Plastics Initiative. This is a pilot program that aims to capture and reprocess plastics that come off of plastic waste that comes off construction sites. This project is situated in Metro Vancouver. For those not familiar with this area, we have a total population in the area of about 6 million people. It's made up of 21 municipalities. And so it's a pretty significant market, and there's a lot of development happening in the area. So we all know that plastic is a global concern. Our federal government has set a target of zero plastic waste by 2030. And our federal government has also implemented a plastics registry that's going to require all producers of plastics in the construction sector to report out on the plastics that they are bringing into the market starting in 2026. So there is a regulatory imperative around understanding plastics in the construction sector. So as I mentioned, the purpose is to reduce, divert, and repurpose plastic in construction. We really want to demonstrate the feasibility of introducing circular economics into construction. So this is just focused on looking at the potential for capturing a market-based approach to capturing and reusing plastics. And the intention is to support, showcase the importance of industry and their role in advancing circularity and the economic potential around that. The pilot's going to run for 18 months. We're about halfway through it now, a little bit less. And we are hoping to extend it into 2028. A lot of the projects that we have brought on board are running longer than 18 months. And so to capture the full lifespan or time span of a construction project, it's really important that that this project be able to run longer than 18 months. Plastics are collected separately on site in a separate bin. You might have you saw it on the last slide. Our site monitor, Yaron Dalby, was standing in front of the bin. And those plastics are then sent to a processor and recycled into a reusable plastic pellet.
There's a webinar on the computer speaker.
Sorry, can you we'll just go back one second. And those plastic pellets are then integrated into a range of innovative new plastic products that are targeting the construction sector. And the exciting thing is that our project partners actually, so the contractors and developers that we're working with actually have the opportunity to reintroduce these products back into their new builds. And so, continuing the circular pathway of these materials. What you see here is an example of one of the products that we're working with, I should say. So polypropylene and polyethylene is going into these patented concrete void system that's used in residential concrete slabs, displacing about 30% of the concrete that would normally be used in a slab for a floor in a residential building. So currently we have 10 projects involved. They represent a range of building typologies, which you can see listed there. And this is just one of the projects that's involved. We're very pleased to have a project from Steveston, which is in the city of Richmond. They're building a new community center and library. And so we are working with them to capture all the plastic coming off of that project. So stay tuned as well. We'll be publishing a report, a preliminary report shortly, probably early summer, and then the final report with the findings from these 10 projects will be issued sometime in early 2026 as well, and they'll be publicly available on our website. So the second project I wanted to introduce you to is the Circular Construction Accelerator. This is an initiative that is funded by the federal government and through an entity called Pacific Can in British Columbia. And it's basically to support innovation amongst companies that are looking to introduce circularity into their operations or the design of their products. So companies that are operating in the construction sector experiencing a rapidly changing regulatory environment, and as well the economic landscape is also changing rapidly. As many of you know, we're also facing a tariff war that's creating all kinds of challenges for the marketplace. We also are finding increasing carbon reduction requirements. So the city of Vancouver, for example, has implemented a requirement for new builds of a certain size to reduce their embodied carbon. And the city of Toronto has a similar type of policy in place. So we're seeing those pop up now across Canada. And then finally, we have a growing market for sustainable products. So developers are looking for alternatives and are more open to and receptive to those options. So in that context, we are identifying companies that need support around addressing circularity in the way that they either design, manufacture their products and technologies, or maybe it might be just in terms of how they run their operation generally. The program provides one-on-one tailored advisory support. So we bring experts in to support them on a range of whatever it is that their pain point is, or whatever their challenge or goal is in terms of scaling their businesses. And we provide them with insights from subject matter experts so they can basically build their knowledge base. And then finally, we give them access to a range of industry resources that their staff can use. This is just some of the types of projects that we look to support. This isn't an exhaustive list, but it's kind of some of the main areas that companies have identified, whether it's getting their products market ready. Certainly now with the changing economic landscape, we're looking at companies looking to different markets that have new and different and sometimes more stringent regulatory environments that requirements that they have to meet. Sourcing alternative materials. So some companies are looking to replace materials or substitute materials in their products that are more circular. And then things like integrating reverse logistics, or how to capture waste back into from their products or from other streams into their products. And then the list goes on. I won't go through all of these. You can see them here, but everything from research, financing, developing marketing and communications, and as I mentioned, navigating policy. So the program is scheduled to run for 3 years, and during that time, 50 companies will run through the program. We just completed our first cohort, and we are now we have applications open for our second year, which starts essentially now in April. So these are just some of the companies that were involved in our first cohort. Ergo and Infinitec are both product manufacturers. So Ergo has a vegetable-based or a concrete release agent that's made out of vegetable oil. So replacing the petrochemical-based concrete release agents with a one that's made from salvaged vegetable oil from restaurants. And Infinitec is the company that designed and manufactures the concrete void product that I mentioned before. We also have a number of deconstruction companies, a house relocation and refurbishment company, and a company that is looking at recycling aggregate as well. That's GRT. So we're early days into this accelerator, like I said, just our first cohort, but we definitely through this process are identifying that there is tremendous innovation happening and a lot of interest in this space. There's circularity is really at the heart of building in efficiency, maximizing the value in materials, and finding new markets. And so we're seeing companies really take an interest in this approach to looking at their business and their products. And we've also identified that they need a lot of support. There isn't currently a whole lot out there to support them in this journey. So we're happy to be kind of helping to facilitate that knowledge sharing and helping them to build that aspect of their business. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ava. Ava.
Great. Thanks, Gil. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all today. My name is Ava Campbell, and I am the Circular Impact Lead at Lighthouse. So I lead BMEX, or the Building Material Exchange Program. So through this program, I engage our 150 plus members to exchange building materials. I recruit new participants to scale the program, and I also organize events and programming to educate the sector, just like the webinar we're doing right now. So in this segment of the presentation, I'll just chat a bit about the BMEX program and share some takeaways from the first year of operations. I also want to talk about why BMEX exists. As we know, far too many construction and demolition materials are landfilled, despite many of them showing potential for reuse. But we also know the marketplace for reuse isn't as frictionless as we might want it to be. There are so many logistical challenges impacting reuse. Materials can sit in storage. Sometimes there's no storage. Builders and designers don't know where they can find reclaimed products. And then often that value chain just breaks down because of timing challenges surrounding supply and demand. So that's where BMEX comes in. We've also been dubbed Tinder for construction materials. I wish I could take credit for that. But BMEX is essentially a matchmaking service for construction materials. And it's designed to connect construction and manufacturing businesses to form these partnerships that keep materials in use and out of the landfill. But we also oversee the building of a larger network and the actual strategy to connect these key players in the industry and build capacity for reuse. So BMEX really has three main services that make up the program, all of which are free, by the way, through program funding that we've received through the local and regional governments. And at the heart of the program is our matchmaking service. So that's what we just call match support here. So this is where we act as a hands-on third-party facilitator to connect businesses, company A that might have surplus materials, and then company B, who can put them to use. And that transaction could be a sale, it could be a donation, it could even be an internal transfer between two different departments within one large company. And we just help bridge that gap between supply and demand. And one piece that has really made this successful has been our network and a database that we've built of over 1,200 companies on Vancouver Island working within this sector. And we conduct outreach to these companies, and we hold meetings, site visits to better understand their waste management practices and also their material needs. And the second offering is the BMEX Marketplace, which is our online exchange platform. And this is where companies can buy and sell building materials. So it's a B2B only platform. So homeowners and the public can actually access the BMEX Marketplace. And that was an intentional decision we made just through discussions with industry and after collecting feedback that they wanted something closed and wanted a platform that was specifically B2B. And this platform targets kind of sporadic or one-off materials. We have a wide range of companies that are currently using the marketplace. I was looking on it earlier today. We have sinks, we have doors, windows, countertops, we have some manufacturing machinery. So it's a pretty wide range. And then finally, we are opening a physical building materials hub this summer, and that will be in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. And something to know about this is it actually wasn't within the initial scope of the program. This also came about through feedback from industry. It was identified that this was a space, this was a store that was missing from Nanaimo, where it will be located. And we're working with Habitat to expand their capacity to accept more building materials that they currently do not stock in their store. So luckily they have extra yard space, which has made this possible. And I'll talk a bit about the value propositions that we typically share with companies. So when we're onboarding companies and we're really trying to show the value of BMX, this is the discussion centers around these 5 value propositions here. So we talk a lot about the financial case and generating revenue by converting your waste and selling it, and also reducing your waste management costs that you typically would spend on sending materials to landfill. And another big piece of it has been building reputational capital and the ability for businesses to share their intentions around reuse. And then also supporting local economic resilience and kind of joining this network of other like-minded companies and being able to learn and to connect with them. Just some stats on the program. So we've engaged over 1,000 companies, and those are coming out of that database that I mentioned earlier. And out of those companies, 150 have actually registered to exchange materials. So they're either already participating in reuse and exchange, or they're open to the idea and they've registered and they've shared information with us about either what materials they're looking to get rid of or what they're looking for. The media has also been really receptive of BMX and really supported, helped get the word out. I know an article went out last week, and just through that we had about 20 registrations for the program. So it's really captured the imagination beyond Vancouver Island, beyond BC, in Canada wide as well, of what is possible. So this slide here, I know it's very dense, but I want to share some behind the scenes insight into the process and outcomes of the first year of the program. So these are some of the approaches we took to get the program off the ground in the first year. And it really started with conducting market research. So we mapped out the sector, we mapped the possible value chain between materials. We created that list of companies, and we also conducted interviews or organic meetings, conversations, or site visits with companies that may be interested in exchanging materials. We also facilitated educational events. We held something called a solutions lab, which is a really great format if you're looking to identify all the possible challenges related to material reuse and then flip that around and identify solutions. So we got a number of stakeholders in the building industry from across contractors, developers, government in the room, and we brainstormed potential challenges and solutions that we could also take back and use them to improve the BMX program. I've already talked a bit about building local community and finding those local champions. A great ally for us has been all of the local industry associations. So we have partnerships with the Vancouver Island Construction Association, the Canadian Home Builders Association, a couple other networks as well. That has been a really great way to speak about the program through a trusted communications channel and a trusted network that already exists. So we've leveraged those relationships to just reach a wider audience. And then integrating feedback and learnings. When we initially conceptualized the BMX marketplace, we did pitch this to potential users. We asked for their feedback on features that could make the BMX marketplace more user-friendly or more efficient. And then we took that back to inform how we would build the platform out. Also want to talk about some intentions for how we're going to scale the program throughout 2025. Like I said, we're launching the materials hub at Habitat for Humanity, which will fill that gap for a physical retail store in Nanaimo. And we're also hoping to leverage the program data we've been building out throughout the first year. So that includes improving our data tracking for material exchanges and being able to quantify exchanges and the companies that are involved in the program. Just because that's really important, of course, to measure the impact of the program and to be able to share that information. And when it comes to engagement, we're looking to take a more segmented approach. So, holding specific webinars or sharing specific information pieces with different sectors that make up the supply chain for reuse. And then number 4 here is offering concierge services. So this will just include on-the-ground support, maybe to address some of those logistical challenges like sorting and auditing materials that companies have available. And then, of course, facilitating matches. It's important to us that we also find partners that are looking for a wide variety of materials, and they'll work with us over the span of a year or a few months to help find and source those materials. And one example is Rifflandia. It's a music festival on Vancouver Island, and they have been a great collaborator. They've sent us a list of over 100 building materials that they're looking to procure for their festival. So in that example, these are materials that maybe don't have a structural use anymore, but they're able to use them and repurpose them at the music festival through partnerships that they have with designers that are open to using used or salvage materials. And then the final point here is the ability to create a self-sustaining program. Through running the program for the first year, we've just identified so many people with, amazing ideas to further BMX, and the ability to have a working group would allow us to just share that like ownership and education with a working group locally. All right, that's the end of my portion about BMX. And we have a couple polls in here, which are really just a segue between our presentations and the Q&A period. So just curious to hear, these are questions that we've asked when we've done similar events. And we're just looking to learn a bit more about what you all see as the biggest barrier to deconstructing buildings. And I think this is a single choice answer, so you'll have to narrow it down to just one.
And just as a comment too, if you choose other, please put your comment in the chat, so then that way we can capture those for Ava and Gil.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I think we have responses from about half. I'll just give you a few more moments to put in a response.
I suspect some of our participants are having a hard time choosing what's at the top of their list because all of these obstacles are significant.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have everybody at 100% on every item if we'd let you check multiple boxes.
Wonderful. I'm going to just close the poll here and share results. Limited space to store salvage materials was the top answer, but certainly other issues were cost and lack of demand of poor established markets. along with the time-consuming process to deconstruct. So thank you for those comments.
And if I may, if folks who noted high cost, is that the cost of the services? Or if you wanted to put any comments in the chat that helped us understand what are the elements of the cost that you see as being most significant. But we can also keep going if Ava, you want to move on now to your second.
Yeah, we have one more for you. And again, it might be a difficult question, but this is kind of the flip side. So what do you see as the biggest barrier to using salvage materials in construction? Again, I think other is an option, so feel free to specify in the chat.
Okay, and it looks like we have responses from just about half, with looks like more are coming in here shortly.
I noticed that we do have someone who has shared in the chat a barrier in British Columbia hazardous waste regulations classifying some materials that are destined for reuse as waste. So some of those, so clarifying some of the detail on that one.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to head and end the poll here and share the results. So it seems like the biggest barrier that the group identified is concerns about the quality or performance of salvaged materials. And then following that, lack of awareness or familiarity within the industry with limited availability of materials and challenges with building code compliance is kind of tied for third here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point, Ava and Gil, you're really segueing to give people a chance to raise questions, make comments, and so forth. So we encourage folks, if you have a question or comment that you'd like to share, you can either use the raise hand feature to go ahead and let us know that, and we can give you a chance to speak. You could also put any questions or comments in the chat if you'd feel more comfortable with it. But this is really a chance for you to engage a little bit more with Gil and with Ava. And as you're perhaps organizing your thoughts, I have a question going back first to Gil. As you talked about programs and initiatives, you've got a very broad remit. And I just wondered if you might comment a little bit about the additional challenges and opportunities of the breadth of that remit and how you trade those off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great question. Maybe I'll focus on the opportunities first. So one of the great things about the work that we do is that we're embedded in the industry. So we haven't touched on some of the other work that we do in terms of regenerative design. So we have a relationship with a lot of developers and in the marketplace, and a lot of the actors. So we are often using them as resources, or connecting them with others that might be interested. So for instance, in BMX, we will introduce some of our clients to that program or connect them with other companies. With the accelerator, we might know that there's a particular build happening and we're advising them on some sustainable design elements, and we might introduce to them a product from one of the companies that are participating in the accelerator. And on the construction plastics side, we talk up that program with the developers and contractors that we know, and get their interest in participating, including one of their sites in that initiative. So there's a real synergy between these when you're looking at it or operationalizing them on the ground, and it's all about building relationships between the actors. I guess the challenge we have is that they are is really penetrating the market, getting a critical mass, building enough awareness about the programs, and walking alongside the companies to get them onboarded and engaged and committed to participating in the programs. Particularly, that is the case for BMEX, but it's also for the Construction Plastics Initiative. There's obviously a lot of resistance. There's lots of reasons why companies are hesitant to participate in pilot programs, and so we spend a fair amount of time kind of meeting with them and addressing their concerns around time and space and complexity and things like that. And we take that feedback as well, and we have modified the program. So, for instance, with the Construction Plastics Initiative, we initially thought we might try to be more selective in terms of the plastics we took. We didn't want to take things like PVC pipe and stuff like that we knew we couldn't recycle locally. But in the end, we decided for simplicity's sake, that we would collect all plastics. And in the end, it actually is beneficial because now we're measuring all plastics that come off the site. So it's turned into the program is addressing more a broader scope and also allowing us to look at plastics more holistically as well. So long answer. Hope that addressed the question.
Super. And folks, please do go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself if you're having trouble with the tech on it, or put your questions in the chat. I'm going to ask kind of one related question as we wait for folks to do that. Gil, we've got participants in this session way beyond Vancouver. If they are interested in this, would it I don't know that you guys would ever expect to scale to be in this diverse set of locations. Is there guidance that you could give folks about how to replicate? How can folks make this happen as part of the solution in their space?
Yeah, we design these programs in a way that we hope that they will scale, and that they can actually become just standard industry practice. And we try to, the whole point of running these is to kind of work the kinks out, so that once they are fully developed, they're easily integrated into the marketplace. So all of these programs, yeah, and we're happy to support any local community that is interested in introducing this into into what they're doing.
So really folks should understand this. Some of these are really in a pilot mode, but if they are interested, they can follow up with you, and you would discuss with them the potential for bringing bringing them into the fold or their areas.
Absolutely. We also,
Fantastic.
all these programs have reports that are issued. Well, BMEX has its first annual report that was issued last year. You can get it off our website, and the other two programs will have theirs in time once they reach their first year milestone. And so those resources are also available to people if they want to. And we try to share out some of our learnings in that process, that we've learned in the context of running the programs.
Gil, I have a quick question as it relates to the plastic pellets. Was there already kind of an established resale market for those, or did that have to be created as part of this process?
Yeah, there is no established market for capturing, processing, and the resale of plastics coming off of construction sites, which is exactly why we did this. There is a very well-established market for recycling refundables like pop bottles, PET. We have collection systems in various jurisdictions for other types of plastics as well, mostly from the residential market. And of course, there's recycling happening with post-industrial plastics. So, and we do have several large plastics processors in the province, but they take those large volume materials that they're getting through things like our extended producer responsibility programs that are run here in the province. So we were really creating an entire value chain where none existed. So we have found the plastic processor and the plastics manufacturer as well, and linked them together with a hauler that's collecting the materials and taking them. So basically getting them all to work together to address the challenges in working with these types of plastics.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I should also add that the program was designed to be financially self-sufficient. So, I mean, we do subsidize a number of aspects of the program that, because of the nature of what it is, we're trying to monitor and track information. But we try to get the actors themselves to pay their true costs associated with that they wouldn't have otherwise paid to deal with these plastics.
And if folks didn't spot it, Sasha put a great point in the chat. And Sasha, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to elaborate on this a little bit. But the point being that established markets for reuse are hindered by EPD's slow response, the quality assurance piece of things, which also then affects the storage needs. It's a system where all the pieces need to be lifted. And it seems that everything works in progress and that so much is in beta. It is an early stage situation for sure. Sasha, did you want to say? Oh, Sasha just put in a comment about why not in a position to unmute and comment more on it right now. If we don't have other folks with questions, because I do not mean to dominate the conversation here, a question for you, Ava, where you talked about match support. It seems that the match support is intended perhaps to be the introduction, but then you're going beyond that with the platform and now extending and expanding to have the facility associated. What to what degree are folks able to go from an introduction versus needing you to then take them through how the process could work about everything from physical transfer and tracking it all down?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll say there are different channels that reach different people. So some people hear about us just through the marketplace. They know that we have this online platform. Sometimes we don't have a conversation until after they've registered. Maybe they've heard about us through media or through something we've published online, and they have the resources and the time to just get started and just to dive in and start posting listings. So it's almost like every company we work with has a different entry point, and they also have a different need. Whereas some companies, maybe we do need to do a bit more hand-holding and go through that match support process with them, where maybe I'll conduct more of a formal meeting where I'll ask them questions about the waste they're generating and the quantities and their team and what kind of efforts they have capacity for. So yeah, it really depends on the company, and it depends on the action that they're ready to take. I think the physical material hub will be a huge opportunity because we're hoping to do a pickup service. So I've chatted with companies or contractors that are super into the idea, and they were very receptive when we mentioned that we were going to have a truck that would drive around and pick up materials, either excess or used or salvaged from job sites. So I think a lot of it is just about identifying those different ways we can remove friction and engage companies depending on where they're at in their reuse journey, I guess you could call it.
Cool, thank you. And I don't know if folks spotted in the chat, Shelley had asked a question about Pacific Mobile depots in Victoria and recycling PVC, and Gil had pointed out that we could have some folks from Victoria who would be able to respond on that. If we do still have those folks on the call, if you want to either address the question one way or the other, we'd love to have you as part of the conversation and helping provide answers to each other. Okay. Does anyone else have questions or comments for Gil or Ava or other folks on the call? Okay, then. Well, we've pretty much used up our time, so thank you both for all the information that you shared with us today. We also thank all of our participants for taking time out of your days to join to learn about these things. We do hope that you will take a few moments as we wrap up, complete the brief survey to give us feedback to improve our meetings. We will be sending out to all of you who registered, and that's including the many more folks who did register but weren't able to participate live. We'll send the recording link, we'll send the transcript of the chat, and thank you for everybody's time and energy today. Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Ava. We really appreciate your participation, and we're all in this together. Thanks again.
Thanks very much.
Have a great week, everybody.
Everyone.
Take care.